Here we go. Hello and welcome to Flying High with Flutter. I am your host, allenwyma, and today I have a special guest, Mangirdas Kazlauskas. Hopefully I said that correctly.
That's
I did practice a
amazing.
couple times. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and he is a GDE, a Google Developer Expert in Flutter and Dart, and I believe he's based out of Lithuania. And I'm just gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself. So why don't you go ahead and tell us some more about who you are and why you're here?
Yep. So, hi everyone. I'm Mangirdas Kazlauskas, as Alan pronounced that very well. I'm from Lithuania. I'm software engineer, and yeah, I'm Google Developer Expert in Flutter and Dart technologies. So a little bit more about myself. So maybe I'm not that long in the information technology industry. My professional knowledge there is like 5+ years, I guess. But the interest in technologies in general and in programming started quite early, I guess, at school. So basically at the late grades, you need to choose the disciplines, what you want to study more and where you want to focus. So informatics was like the top out there. And I started programming, I started building small projects. Of course, I had to build a like tic-tac-toe, as always, which doesn't lose. So yeah, I started doing that. School, then university, computer science degree, and during during my years at university, I guess after the second year there, I got my first job. First of all, it was a part-time job. But I needed to study, so that's quite common there. And yeah, started getting my first steps in the, let's say, professional expertise in programming. Carry on my studies. Then in 2018, I graduated university, and I decided not to start my major. Just because I realized maybe I do not need that at that moment, but for the future, who knows? Maybe I'll be interesting in some area, maybe not computer science specifically, but any other major, and yeah, and I try to find for topics, for fields where I need to improve, and mobile development was one of that. So, and it was 2018, so obviously there were not that many cross-platform solutions. There were of course those popular ones, but I noticed that Flutter is emerging there, and I started like goofing around and seeing what's the capabilities are there, and Flutter was like in, I guess, 0.10.2 version, something like that. It's quite a beta version, and yeah, and even though there were like some noticeable bugs, so you are coding at something and you notice that it's I am doing something wrong, or it's the problem with the Flutter framework itself, because there were some bugs there, but eventually I carried on learning Flutter. Then I started to writing technical content at Medium, and I have a blog there. And I continued like improving in Flutter in general, and this year in March I became a Flutter developer expert in Flutter and Dart technology. So Google
Well, why
developer
don't we
expert.
kind of go back a little bit, right? So
Sure.
you said I heard your words were you weren't very good or familiar with mobile technologies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you start off using something else, or were you just start off using native APIs to actually start developing mobile
Yeah,
apps, or
that's a good point. So maybe we can start that my background was mostly .NET and like .NET Core. I was working on that, and I was familiar with the web technologies in general. So I used Vue.js even for my final thesis at the university. I tried out Angular, I tried out React, so I know what's the capabilities there. Of course, you could ask, well, you could start asking questions if you knew React, why you didn't choose React Native, and so on. So maybe to answer your question about the native part, so I didn't want to limit myself to only one specific technology. Let's say if you learn native, you go directly to Android or to iOS, whatever. So I didn't want to limit myself there. I wanted to maybe in the beginning I wanted maybe to know a little bit less, but in the broader area, so cross-platform development, so maybe learning a single framework and building apps for Android and iOS. It seems appealing, it seems interesting, and yeah, that was basically why I chose Flutter.
But you did give like React Native or other ones a try, right? Or even Xamarin or anything?
Yeah, Xamarin, that's a fun one, but no, I haven't tried Xamarin, but I tried React Native, but that tries, it's like building a to-do app, something like this, and
yeah,
I tried that out, but I didn't maybe let's say focus on React Native. I tried React Native and I did exactly the same thing, like building exactly the same to-do app with Flutter, and I see that my productivity with Flutter was a lot higher. I made the same thing much easier and much faster. So, and then I realized, okay, maybe we should give another shot for Flutter and maybe build some personal project or just goof around and played it more. So yeah. So I guess development experience was that moment when I realized, Flutter could be the future for me, at least in the near future.
Well, how was your experience when you compare Flutter to React Native? Because I think everybody's is different. For me, it felt like React Native was just so brittle, and every time I tried to update one thing, everything else would just break. It was just like a disaster. And I also felt like they kind of gave me spaghetti, and it was up to me to put my fork into it and twist it apart and kind of put everything together, as opposed to Flutter, where I feel everything is kind of like, okay, you put everything into lib, and then you can still structure your code the way you want, but at the same time, things were confined to just a lib folder for the most part, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
go ahead.
That's with great power comes great responsibility. So Flutter allows you to do those stuff and structure your code any way you want. The question is how this code would scale in the future if you are making the small project bigger, maybe first to the medium-sized project, then to the larger one. I not even mentioning the state management and other details of Flutter. So about React Native, maybe it was a little bit easier to jump in just because, there were more content out there on the internet, more answers on Stack Overflow, the bigger community, maybe third-party packages and so on. The whole environment was maybe more friendly for a newbie, but I guess at that moment, the Flutter had a little bit bigger hype out there. First of all, it's backed up with a very great company, like a huge company out there, so by Google. And for me personally, as I mentioned, I came from the .NET background, and there's a Dart programming language. So getting to know that you can build UI using the type-safe language like Dart and make it the code really scalable, efficient, and so on. So that was appealing, even for newbie, as I mentioned. Maybe there were not enough information out there in the beginning about the state management. You maybe sometimes you needed to reinvent the wheel, but even the simple set state, worked most of the time. So starting small and then trying to find for bigger technologies and for better solutions for your project to grow. I guess that's a natural process on how you improve in any other technology, I expect.
Actually, I'm quite surprised if you came from a .NET background. Why did you not go to Xamarin? Because Xamarin's definitely older than Flutter, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I guess I didn't want to okay, I have a .NET background and now I should build apps only using the technology I'm familiar with, C# or whatever. So I was willing to learn something new, and why not jump straight into something completely different, like different methodology, different technology in general, different stack. So I guess the difference is that some programmers want to expand the knowledge just because they want like financial benefit, to expand their portfolio and then sell it as a solution. I just wanted to continue my learning curve there and especially expand my knowledge in mobile development. So maybe I wasn't that interested of providing solutions that fast, so I could spend more time on learning something completely new, some different environment. So again, Flutter was appealing.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So usually I hear about like people say they choose React Native because they're already into JavaScript. Maybe they're actually using Node.js in the back end. For you, it sounded like it's a totally new technology, so that's more of a reason for you to try it out because you want to expand your horizons or expand your learning, right? That's quite interesting.
So, yeah, that's I guess if I like at that moment I wouldn't have any job and I needed to like find my place in the market and having the React knowledge in the background, sure, React Native would make more sense, obviously, but yeah, I'm always willing to learn new things. That's how you can at least position your at one of the best in what you're doing. And at the same time, at least in Lithuania, about Flutter, there were like I didn't know any person like who is using that. At least I searched for let's say job positions. Obviously there were none. I searched maybe for blogs, maybe in forums and so on. So there were no info. So why not be a pioneer there, and start growing something, maybe building community, and maybe just expanding the knowledge and sharing that inside the company, let's say, and starting something new.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. I am kind of curious because I've been trying to figure out, I understand a little bit more about how React Native kind of works, where they call the native APIs underneath the hood for you and you just kind of talk with JavaScript. Dart, everything still compiles natively, but you can still use a method channel to talk to native SDK if you need to. But do you have any idea how Xamarin works? Because I've been trying to figure this out, but I have absolutely no idea because everybody claims
not
that they're
really.
native. Okay, I was curious if you had any ideas. Yeah.
No. In Xamarin, I have like close to zero knowledge. Maybe I saw a presentation about technology in general, like, in public events, but nothing more.
Have you ever looked at KMM or no? Do you know what is KMM?
No.
So apparently Kotlin, as far as I could tell, around the beginning of April of this April, right? JetBrains came out with KMM, which is like Kotlin multi-platform mobile. So the idea is that you would write in Kotlin, but you still have to spread out your code. So you have native Kotlin, which is common across both platforms, iOS and Android. But then if you want to do Android specific, you have to make another Kotlin folder. If you want iOS specific, you have to make another iOS specific folder. I'm just trying to explain what I understand, right? But you still have to use the native SDK of each platform to do the UI.
Yeah, exactly. And that's at least now by hearing this, it's questionable. Why do we need that when we have Flutter, So
yeah, so I did make a question on their ad that I saw. I said, what's the point? They said it's because it's native. And I said, okay, but isn't Flutter also native? And you also get web and desktop support? So
I mean,
what's the point?
Flutter is partially native, let's say. Let's say when, even comparing to React Native, so as you mentioned, there's like an underlying JavaScript layer which communicates with the platform component. So if you need like any specific UI component, you request then the platform specific native component, right? In Flutter, components only look like native, but they are just pixels drawn on the screen. So we are redrawing the whole screen, and we are not requesting anything from the native layer. Pretty much no specific components. Like you need a button, we can draw it themselves, and that's it. So maybe getting to that point that Flutter, it compiles to native, but it's like partially native, let's say.
Yeah, because they have they control their whole rendering layer, right? So that's, I guess, if you say that, then theoretically, it is kind of native. It is kind of not really native, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good point. I never really thought about it like that. Okay. That's pretty cool. So, sorry, let me get back to my question sheet because let's actually get back to kind of what you're doing, right? So we
Okay.
talked about your history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe let's talk more about like kind of like how you got to now, right? So you started learning Flutter and you started to kind of blog about it, right? Is that the first step
Yeah.
you did? Is that you started writing Medium articles, or what happened? Like,
Um,
and also why did you start it?
yeah, that's quite quite a huge background about this story in general. So
Well, this is all related to GDE, right? Because you did these things,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
why
yeah,
you're
yeah.
GDE, right?
Exactly,
So,
exactly. So when yeah, as I mentioned, it was 2018, I guess, the fall of 2018, something like that. After the summer, when I finished graduated the university, then look, I have a lot of free time. I can still continuing on improving myself in the field. So for me, at least maybe that's a problem of my generation, is that sometimes you need to do something to maintain the concentration on something, and not to like leave all your side projects half done and not finish them. So I guess writing was one of those things when for me personally, I put the deadlines. So basically, every X weeks you need to publish something, and you need to keep improving on Flutter. You need to improve your skills on there just to provide the content. So my intention wasn't really to start writing uh, at first, but later I realized that okay, since I'm Lithuanian, of course English is not my native language. I can communicate like quite okay with any other person talking like in English, but when it comes to writing, especially the technical content, and you start doing that in English, you realize that your vocabulary is that your vocabulary has some problems, and you cannot express yourself even though you have like a really great idea which you want to represent, but then you start typing this idea in English and you realize, well, I cannot like transfer my knowledge to the audience. The information is lost at some point, so I decided that I needed to keep writing just to keep me sane, to keep me thinking like in linear format, and like writing line by line and so on. So I guess my intention was to just improve in writing in English in general, just so I can like communicate my ideas better. And if you want to write something technical, well, you need to choose a field. What do you want to write about, right? So Flutter, at that moment I started learning Flutter, so why not? That I would like I would expand my knowledge in Flutter. I'll start writing. I will have content to show for the future. I'll start maybe building the community, because in Lithuania there's no Flutter community at that moment. I mean, I didn't know any person interested in the same field. So I noticed this as an opportunity, as a chance to improve, and maybe even being the best in what I'm doing at that moment. So writing helped me a lot, at least even now, even the day-to-day business, when you are coding, when you need to structure your ideas, and writing helps to build that confidence in yourself, in your ideas, and just to keep you sane and maybe express yourself even better for the broader audience. And I started writing on Medium. I started writing about design patterns. So that's, object-oriented programming design patterns, just to basically OP design patterns is just guidelines on how you should structure your object-oriented code in general, to make it scalable, to make it more readable. Maybe it would be more understandable for the other developers joining the project, and so on. So now I have the technology. I have a really great topic to talk about. I started my own blog, and I started doing this. And as always, that's the hardest part, At that moment, not at that moment, even now, you have a full-time job, and then you need in the evening spend your time on writing something, on investigating the topic, and so on. So For instance, the blog I have, each article took about like 20 hours to finish, something like that. That includes the coding itself, like investing the topic you're going to write about and actually writing that, So if you consider having the full-time job and spending those 20 hours to write an article, and in the beginning, like for the first 7 weeks, I guess, I published an article weekly, meaning that's quite a lot to cover, and that could even lead to some burnouts in the long run, but I guess that just explains how much did I want that, just to expand my knowledge and to improve in general, and especially in Flutter. So that's how it all started, and I'm happy that I'm continuing doing that, and maybe not publishing weekly, but in general, I guess the quality is much better now. The texts are like more readable, and they reach the broader audience now. So it motivates to continue doing that. And talking about GDE, I guess that was quite a natural next step of what I'm currently doing. I didn't need to pretend that, look, I am like public speaker, I'm providing a lot of content, and you do that like in a week or two, and then going straight to the GDE and say, look, I could be a GDE now. No, it was long. It took like, 1.5 years, but that was quite a natural next step to becoming a GDE, and basically continuing doing what you already did, but having a GDE status in your background.
Or maybe this is a good time. I think you kind of steered us towards the GDE stuff, right? That's the main topic. And so, okay, so you started making these posts, and then now, what I understand now is that it wasn't Google that reached out to you. It was you reaching out to Google saying, hey, I want to be a GDE. Is that actually what happened?
Oh, that's even... that's a great story. So
well, tell us the story. Don't just tell us it's a great story.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of where to start. I remember it was 2020, I guess, before the Christmas. The time when everyone just goes to their vacations usually, and nothing is working in the offices and so on. So yeah, I reached out to Chris Sells. So Chris Sells is the product manager of Flutter, and I reached him out in LinkedIn, but basically at that moment I didn't even consider being or becoming a GDE. I just reached out to him and said, look, I am a Flutter developer in Lithuania. I'm just interested whether there are Flutter developer community there, because I couldn't find any community started building there. And he mentioned, I'm not responsible for those things, but I can direct you to the person who is responsible. And then he arranged the meeting with Nilay. So Nilay is responsible for this whole GDE stuff of Flutter and Dart technology. So she's the coordinator, and we arranged a very short, 30 minutes call at some point, just to discuss about the community in general. And yeah, the day comes when you're waiting for that interview, and then you realize that maybe that could be an opportunity to become a GDE, and maybe not become a GDE, but maybe just ask about it, whether I'm able to do that, and I can bring the value to the community, just becoming a GDE, right? So we had a call, and just basically that was a very open discussion about the community status, about the Flutter status in general, about how, whether it's popular globally or not. And then we started discussing about the Flutter contribution, not a contribution, but Flutter community in Lithuania, let's say. And I just asked her, well, is there a community? And she checked her notes and said, nope. And then I said, can I start building that? And she said, sure, you can try. And basically at that moment I realized that I already started doing that, right? I'm writing articles. At that moment I have even started to mentoring some people. So 2020 was you started noticing that, okay, there are some people who are also interested in Flutter, and they want to learn that and expand their knowledge, and they just asked me because I was there since 2018, so it's almost 2 years there, and they reached me out. So maybe you have some tips, maybe you can help me to review the code on some projects and so on. So those projects were not commercial, but they just like personal projects, just to guide the developers through them. And yes, so Nilay then. We talked about the community. She said, "Okay, you can build. Why not? If you want this responsibility, sure." And then I asked her, "And what about the GDE? I mean, whether I am good enough to become a GDE, because Google Developer Expert basically means that you should be an expert in your field. There are some requirements to become a GDE. They are not like very official requirements, let's say, but it basically consists of everything you are doing in general. So, for instance, I can go through these requirements just to get a better idea. So you need to provide to the community, whether that's like articles, videos on YouTube, whether that's social media posts, whether you are mentoring anyone, everything counts. So if you're doing that, also you need to have some public speaking experience. Let's say you participated in some conferences, you talked about Flutter specifically. Also, if you are, I don't know, leading some workshops, if you are discussing about this technology inside your company, if you're just discussing about that in, I don't know, in Reddit, in Stack Overflow, you're helping people, you're providing, everything counts. And at the end, when you apply for the GDE, you need to fill out all of this info of what's your contribution to the technology you want to be a GDE, So for me, I filled that out, and I at that moment I thought that I'm missing that one gap, which means that I need to show some public speaking experience, because that's not quite a requirement, but that's a huge plus if you want to become a GDE. So, and that was the beginning of 2020, and at the end of 2020 there was a Dart Up conference. So that was a Flutter conference, and not Flutter, but Dart conference, which was held in St. Petersburg before, but due to the COVID situation, it was the first time remote conference. And I just wrote an email to Evgeny. He's also a GDE, and he's organizing this conference. And I said, look, I know I'm very late to this conference, but maybe I can prepare a topic about that and participate there. And he said, sure, just send me some notes or whatever you got and what do you want to talk about. And instantly the topic was about design patterns, because I'm doing that for 2 years. So I said I can use those as my topic, and I guess that's quite an advanced topic. It's not like not for new developers, but it is interesting. So I had 6 days to prepare, meaning I needed to code the prototype app, I needed to prepare the slides, I needed to prepare a talk in general, and yeah, I managed to do that, and pretty much I checked all the GDE checks in 2020, and what was left for 2021 was to just apply for GDE, just fill the form, and then some interviews, and we are here.
So what is actually all the checks that are actually involved? So I believe one is, of course, giving at least one speaking event a year. Is that right?
That's true.
And then
you
have to keep up.
Yeah. So maybe just talking about GDE in general. So GDE, you get this GDE status for 1 year, meaning that after 1 year, there's a review process of your contribution. Of your contribution to the community during this year, and if everything is okay, you are still contributing, you are still writing, you are still talking, then this GDE status is renewed for 1 more year. When you are filling the info, I guess it's not, you are filling info for what you have done in general. So meaning it does not need to be like what you have done during your last year. You can fill everything you did during your career, and that counts. So yeah, so about the requirements. So as you mentioned, speaking requirements. So meaning you need to participate in any public event. So of course it's better that it would be like Flutter or Dart related conference or something like that. I expect meetups like GDG meetups also counts, but I'm not sure about that. I guess the requirement is like to participate in this global public event or conference, Then there's technical requirements. So technical requirements is basically your contribution to the open source community. Maybe you created pull requests in the Flutter engine or in the Flutter framework in general, maybe an active contributor to Dart, maybe you have some very, very popular open source projects, or like you published a very popular package in PubDev and a lot of developers are using that. That could be your contribution to, let's say, helping other developers in Stack Overflow. That all of that counts because it shows your that specific expert part in the technology, that you can actually be an expert in the field. Then there's of course I guess it's called like something like community requirements. So basically you need to write a technical article or something like that, but I guess the requirement is to use English for that. So I'm not sure about if you writing in your native language. I guess maybe Spanish also counts or something like that. But as I heard, I guess English is a requirement, but I'm not sure. I could miss some details there. But yeah, the important thing is that you need to provide a technical content to the community. So whether that's your own blog, whether that's on Medium or any other platform of your choice, so that's okay. And the last and actually the most important thing, which is, I guess it got lost for a lot of the folks out there. You need to have a good reputation in the community, meaning there were stories like during public conferences, since during this situation, a lot of conferences were public, free, and online. So you could find a lot of harassing comments out there and so on. So if you have ever done that, then you must change your persona, change your name, surname, and then try again, because people usually, even not usually, but sometimes forget that everything what you do online, it stays online actually, and it won't be forgotten. So I guess even the Flutter community have some kind of blacklist, and if you have done something wrong, then there's a high chance that it was noticed and you won't go through any of this process, even though you would be very technical, even you could be like the top level expert in the field, but if you have bad reputation, that's pretty much it. You cannot become an idol for something or lead the GDE in any way.
It's kind of interesting because there is one GDE that I seen on Facebook, kind of, I don't know, I read some of his comments and I thought they sounded a little bit nasty. So I don't know what it means.
In which way?
Like
rude or something?
Yeah, the tone I thought was a little bit rude, but maybe I mean, it's hard to say. You read words, it's black and white, and everybody sees things differently.
That's questionable where to draw that line, of where is the harassment and where it's just that's maybe who he is or who he or she is, So
I don't want to say who it is because that maybe
is
going to get me in trouble, but
it could be me, so don't say that.
Don't let anybody know it's you, right? No, it's somebody else. I was just a little bit surprised, and I think also that developers themselves, it's hard for us sometimes to judge what's the best way to do and say things. And to me, one of the first comments I always get from people is that I'm mean, but maybe it's just because my way of kind of talking to people is just very direct, and I'm in Hong
Yeah,
Kong, and so people over here are not so direct like I am, so it kind of comes off as rude when I'm just kind of
yeah,
straight to the
yeah, yeah.
point.
I see your
Sorry,
point,
go ahead.
especially uh, that was even visible not that long time ago. I guess uh, there's like when you start talking about the state management in Flutter, you could start a civil war easily. And of course, every developer, especially if the developer provides the state management solution by himself or herself, so they need to stand confident there, and they need to express themselves that look, this is the best solution. And but I guess what we need to do in general as a community, we need to separate the critic to one's work, and and when your critic goes to someone personally, because there's nothing wrong to critique someone's work if you have that opinion. But when it gets personal, then I guess that's the line, at least for me, when you need to stop doing anything and start like harassing or anything like that. So if we are talking about technologies, I guess that's how developers live. We are integrating those solutions into our projects. We need to pay the bills, we need to build projects and get profit on that. So finding the best solution and maybe selling the best solution for the others is a crucial part out there. So I know I consider these things natural, but when it gets personal, yeah, you should avoid that for sure.
Yeah, I know. And sometimes, developers are probably one of the most opinionated people out there. And so, yeah, you're going to get some. We don't want to talk about tabs versus spaces, right? So people can
Yeah,
get quite
exactly.
upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, going back to where we are. I mean, so it seems like GDE isn't. It seems like it's not too difficult to get in terms of like, you don't need to be some awe-inspiring developer. You just basically need to be kind of a good character, doing your best to kind of bring awareness to the community, and also bringing something to the community itself, right? Those are
Hmm.
kind of the three basic things that I can see.
Yeah, exactly. And uh, actually, I have even noticed quite recently a conversation in Twitter, and one of the GDs said that I'm feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome because I do not feel an expert in this technology, but I am a GDE, because when you see other GDs building like, uh, I know, making all the conferences live, and they're building like huge projects, working with huge companies and so on, you can feel that, am I really an expert, but I, me personally, I focus on what I do and what I do the best. So if you if you if you could transfer your ideas publicly, if you are giving any value to the community, if you are helping others, especially if you are mentoring and you are growing like younger developers out there, so this work maybe is not even visible publicly, but you are contributing a lot. If you can grow like, I know, 10 junior developers in Flutter who could potentially become a GDS later. So I guess that's even more important than, providing a very, very high expertise technical solution. Of course, that's a place for discussion, but yeah, I agree totally. You don't need to be like, I don't know. You don't need to work at NASA to be a GDE or something like that. You can, if you can help the community, that's the most important thing.
So, I don't have to write C++ and contribute to core, right?
Yeah, exactly. Of course, that helps, but you don't need to like be the best in the field. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely that GDE definitely does carry some weight to it, right? So
Yeah,
that's why I
yeah.
think people are really, interested.
Exactly. So for instance, in Lithuania especially, as I mentioned, I'm in this industry for 5+ years. So if I come, let's say, in the conference on the stage, and I guess there won't be that status, let's say, of, oh, okay, he's working like only for 5 years in the industry. Is he even a good at it? What he's speaking about? But when you bring on the stage the status of, look, I'm Google developer expert, and actually the first and so far the only one in Lithuania, maybe that means something, and that helps. Even I felt that, yeah, the status helps to at least not you. you don't use the status to get something or to, like, I don't know, get into something, but the status helps for everyone in the community to listen to you at least, and then when they see your work, actually that's a positive feedback later. So
then it does actually kind of give you something, right? Gives you some reputation and gives you maybe kind of like a virtual podium to stand on, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, but I think it also helps when you're applying for jobs, right? Because you could say, okay, I'm a GDE, and then it probably will also give you some benefit, right?
At least in Lithuania, that's tricky. Talking about the job opportunities in general, so that's tricky. I mean, big companies still do not want to really invest into Flutter because they see a risk in business by using Flutter, sometimes. So I guess more of a startup-oriented companies are using Flutter and trying that out. I'm happy. Let's say at the moment I'm working at DevBridge, and now we are building the. Yeah, I'm currently a project lead on a project where we use Flutter to build a mobile application, and I'm happy because that shows that big companies you can, like, if you're good at something, you can transfer your ideas to the company, and the company sees that, okay, you're good at it, and maybe you can even lead a project. So that's actually was my path to this project lead position there, and I'm leading a Flutter project. So when Flutter was your hobby, like 2 years ago, something like that, and you consider this as only a hobby, and now it's your full-time job, so that's even more amazing.
So that's kind of interesting. Now that you're kind of leading us, this is also a thing that we wanted to talk about, was that, what are you doing right now? Or like, what is DevBridge, and how did you get started in this company?
Yeah, so I joined DevBridge only a year ago. So basically DevBridge is a global digital product consultancy company. So we are pretty much building products for the clients. Those clients are mostly from the States, and there are quite a few clients being in the Fortune 500 like company list. So they're like quite a huge companies we are working with, and the field we are working is like very broad. It's logistics, automotive, healthcare, agribusiness, manufacturing, financial services, and so on. So there, most of the engineers are from Lithuania. So we have at the moment in Lithuania 3 offices out there. So it's like 200 plus people, only engineers working in the company, and we are building solutions. So I joined the company as a software engineer. So also that was quite a fun story, because I wanted to join a company as a .NET developer, but it turns out that I got into the project which was built with Node.js, and it was okay. I mean, that just, technologies in general is just a tool. It's the most important if whether the engineer is capable of handling those tools. So that's the most important thing. So I worked on this project with Node.js, and then there was an opportunity to join to build a mobile app. So DevBridge in general, by default, offered to build mobile apps using React Native, let's say, because there are a lot of engineers, and at least the front-end engineers and just full stack engineers, a lot of them already know React, so React Native is not that a huge step, to build a solution. But I'm happy that the managers saw this as an opportunity for me to jump into and maybe provide the value and to prove that Flutter could be even better to build React Native than building React Native solutions, So now project lead at the company. I have quite a small team, so only 4 engineers are currently in the team. So I'm covering the project lead duties, meaning I like create tasks, refine requirements for the project, and so on, like handling the whole architecture of the app and seeing that we are in a good direction. Then we have 2 engineers working part-time and one test engineer. And yeah, we have the project manager and designer as well. So, but the engineering team itself is quite small, having in mind that even 2 developers are like part-time developers at the moment. One of them is junior, one of them is just regular developer, and yeah, I'm leading the project. So even though the team is very, very small, we are delivering it. I mean, I cannot express this enough, but we are really, really delivering the project. So at the moment, the project, I guess we are in the middle of the project now, but Flutter shows its value. I mean, I was the only one in the team who had quite a significant experience in Flutter. Other developers did not have any experience in Flutter in general, but they onboarded and they are providing and delivering this project. So I'm very happy about that.
So that's quite interesting because you're hitting on a lot of interesting topics. And what I mean interesting in this time is that you came aboard, you wanted to do .NET, they put you on Node.js, but you really like to do Flutter in your kind of free time, right? So how did Flutter come into your duty? Because you're basically introducing Flutter to that company, right? Isn't that kind of what happened, or am I wrong?
I mean, no. So when I was at the company, Flutter in general and providing content and writing articles, was like I consider this as my side project, even though it's not technically a project, but it's still an activity you do on the side. So it gets noticeable. I mean, I share my activity on LinkedIn and share it that, look, I do something. And I guess before the project, I didn't even push the idea to the company that, look, there is a Flutter and we must use it, but the company noticed that I'm doing something well and I'm good at what I'm doing, so they just offered me this, and I guess that's quite natural, at least for me. And only time could show whether that was a good solution or not. I mean, whether that was a good decision, but we are building the project now. The client is happy about the project in general. We are happy that we can deliver. I'm happy that I'm working with Flutter and it's my full-time job. So what else I could expect? That's quite a good field to work in and to improve.
So basically, they started looking at Flutter because they noticed that you kept talking about Flutter. So that was kind of the introduction. Yeah. So it was an indirect introduction almost. But you had no plans of this ever coming out, right? You had no plans to ever introduce it to them directly.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a good point. I even had no idea of becoming a project lead because for the project lead position you need to have quite a significant amount of soft skills on how to communicate with the client, on how to manage the project and all of this agile stuff we are working in. So you need to be aware of that. But in the beginning, maybe me as a person, I was quite shy in the beginning, I guess, but I noticed that as my negative side of me in the industry, and I just tried to push myself to improve in it. So writing about Flutter helped that, I came out publicly, I deliver the content, I can communicate my ideas better now, and those soft skills is just as any other skill. You can improve those, even though you are shy or you are introvert, whatever, but you can improve those. So I guess in the beginning, the biggest challenge to me wasn't really to build the project itself, but to learn how to manage the team and how to realizing that you won't spend all of your daily work time building and coding. You need to first of all delegate the work to the others and educate them and mentor them, and in the beginning, I guess this whole management time was even took the bigger part of my daily work than the coding itself. And now it's 50-50 because I pretty much manage and learn how to be a project lead, but there's still some challenges, but yeah, that's also quite a good amount and quite a huge skill set to me to learn and to improve on. So,
Do you think your time as a GDE, where you have to do public speaking and everything else, do you think that actually really kind of helped you to this role? Or actually, I don't even know the timeline. So when you became a team lead and when you became a GDE, which one became first, and did either one affect the other?
yeah, so the timeline was like I started writing and so on, then was this project lead position, and then I become the GDE. But yeah, I had this experience of public speaking and so on, but even for you, Alan, I mentioned that I'm nervous before. I don't know if it's noticeable, but I'm nervous until I start doing something. So I guess for the project lead position, it was like that, like a night before or 2 nights before, you're realizing that maybe I'm not good at that. I have no skills, I have no experience, and so on. But you started doing it, and you know that you need to provide the value to the company, and you need to deliver. Then you just collect yourself. You personally, to me, I wrote every bad thing in my notes, and then I can cross them out when I fix something. So it just helps to to keep sane and to manage yourself, especially from the emotional point of view.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about, maybe being a GDE, or you have any advice to anybody who's maybe interested in being a GDE?
I mean, you can collect a lot of advices. So I guess the first thing to realize that, as we already discussed, if you are not an expert in the field, it doesn't mean that there's a hard stop for you to become a GDE. But the most important thing is what value you bring to the community. In my case, there is no community in Lithuania, right? But that doesn't mean that you cannot start building it. You cannot contribute to it and educate others. As I mentioned, if you are mentoring others, if you are providing content, if you are just an active member of the community, it gets at some time it gets noticed, and eventually GD is an opportunity for you to grow and also to get that status, which could also help in your day-to-day business. And I see, and that's quite a pity feeling there, but I feel a lot of guys who are like as me at that moment, which spend a lot of time on Flutter, but Flutter just remains as their side job or side project, and they never get the opportunity to using Flutter in their day-to-day business, and that's, as I mentioned, if you are investing in yourself and you are spending a lot of time building your side projects, then it's quite hard to keep that momentum, and because you can just burn out, So I'm very happy that now Flutter became my full-time job. So that could be a really great example that it could be the same for you guys. So if you maybe not in Flutter in particular, but any other technology, if you are interested, if you are providing value to the community, even the contribution itself could be your job, because we have those roles in the industry, like developer advocate or the content creator of any technology. Maybe if you like doing the content creation and other stuff, maybe you don't need to be a software engineer. You can be like a developer advocate in the company now, but you will bring even more value than just being just a regular software engineer. So yeah, I missed the idea now. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
Well, I think you did, but I'm actually kind of curious though. Is there any benefit to being a GDE? Like, I think I heard before that you actually get some kind of preview information, right? Is that part of the benefits of being a GDE?
I mean, yeah, the benefits are that, of course, you are acknowledged by Google, one of the industry leading companies. So it means that you are an expert, and it's when, let's say, you want to become an expert in any other field, you usually, get to the exams, you get certificates, and you just prove that you are good at it. So GDE also shows that you are good in this field and this technology in particular. So yeah, the status is one benefit. invitation to the events. Let's say there's a when there would be a better times and we can travel around the world. So if you travel to like Google conference, like Google I/O, for example, so this trip is paid by Google and you can participate in those conferences. So you get like, I do not want to say that VIP tickets, but you at least get tickets to those conferences and invitation to participate there. You receive an opportunity to get a direct access to the Google team. So meaning if I guess product managers or any developer in Google, let's say you almost have a direct contact, or you just need to ask I want to discuss about some particular Google technology, whatever they're doing, and if they can explain and they have opportunity to explain something, you can just reach them out. So you have this opportunity of direct contact, the Google employees, let's say, and the Google team in general. Yeah, there's of course some swag out there, like you're getting in some programs you get like t-shirts, and any other swag, so that's cool.
Wait, do you get a dash?
It's on the way, actually. It's on the way.
Okay.
I'm waiting for it. Dash is worth more than a Bitcoin, so I'm waiting for that. Also, about, I missed something. GDE. Okay. Anyway, but I guess you get the direct access to the teams. You'll get invitations to public events. Oh, if you, let's say, organizing some kind of meetup or some local conference, let's say, so Google, you could ask Google to cover the expenses out there. So like if you need to provide drinks, maybe even you need to get the speakers out there. So GDE Community is really great, so you can invite someone to join your conference, and especially it's visible now when all the conferences are online, so you can just invite anyone to, like, do you want to give a speak in the meetup, and most of the time you'll find a person, a developer or what else who will join you and help you to lead those events. So it's just a great feeling being in this community and realizing that you're not alone there and you will always get support you need. So even getting this feeling is a great advantage and a great benefit.
Sounds great. I really wish I could apply for this. Maybe I can. I have to talk to Chris, maybe.
And also, if you want to join the GDEs, so first thing of all, you need to reach out to your local GDEs or any GDEs. So we have the power to recommend you and to provide you an application form to fill out. Of course, before that, there would be some background check about your contribution to the community, about all the requirements we already talked about. But yeah, if you want to join GDEs, reach out to GDE.
Okay, I'm reaching out right now. Can you hook me up?
Yeah, I saw your private message now.
Okay, I know. Is it okay if we go over a couple more minutes? Because I know you're getting buzzed right now. So just a few more minutes. These are kind of the more generic questions I like to ask towards the end, which is kind of like... what do you actually use for state management if you were to kind of choose a solution?
Yeah, so at the end you wanted to start a civil war, right? Yeah.
I've gotten different answers, right? Somebody actually said Qubit, which I thought was a little bit interesting. I don't really hear Qubit so much.
Okay, so I'm Team Block. So I even started using Block since I heard that I guess in 2018 during the Google I/O conference, Block was introduced as one of the solutions. So when I needed to actually select the state management solution, so I watched this conference and I tried this Block. Block in general it's not a library, it's the whole methodology on how you structure your code and how you provide the state to your app and so on. So at that moment when I started using Block, the Flutter block package wasn't even there, so Felix haven't released the package already. So I even needed in order for the block to work, I needed to take care of any other detail which is now working in the background, like taking care of disposing the block, of creating the block, of providing the block to the app and so on, so you needed to take care of this whole infrastructure. But now we have thanks God we have this amazing developer who helps us a lot, and we can just use the block as we can write block code only what we need for our business to cover and not the whole infrastructure. So I enjoy block. I know there are discussions about block having a lot of boilerplate code, but I see no disadvantage in it because even though you're providing this boilerplate, first of all, you can generate this code. Second of all, you have this very clear and very strict separation of concerns. So meaning your business logic is dedicated in the single block. And if you provide this block, you can provide this block globally. So there is no problem to access the same block anywhere inside your app. If you want to keep your block local, you just create it a little bit deeper into the tree, and you can access this only in a single component. So block-to-block communication. Also, if you need to access like data from the other block, it's also feasible. I enjoy that block as an idea is based on streams. So meaning that, let's say if you are using Firestore, let's say from the Firebase infrastructure, you're using this live database, then it's based on streams, so it's very easy to integrate this to block. If you need to do some more complex operations like stream manipulation, you need to merge two different data streams, you need to put the delay on your stream, you need to periodically emit an event. It's very easy integratable with the block. And the lastly, of course, testing. Since you have a dedicated business component and it's separated from all of your code, so you can test it out separately. You can try out every single state you can get into very easily. And also, of course, there's some additional extensions and helpers for use. For instance, you can create a block observer, so at any point of the app, you can see what events were triggered, what's your current state, what's your next state, and so on. If you need to persist your block, let's say if you close the app and open the app again and you want to remain in the specific state, you can use the hydrated block. So yeah, a lot of things are there for you, just need to use it. Of course, there's maybe a steeper learning curve to get into block because you need to maybe shift your mindset a little bit, but when you get that click, everything becomes easy and straightforward, and you enjoy using it.
Yeah, I'm using block in one of my projects. I'm pretty happy with it, but there is a couple of the things I don't really like, because I had to keep passing around a block all over the place. Passing was at the block.value. That kind of gets a little bit annoying, and also sometimes the block will throw an exception and you don't catch it properly. So I've been trying to take a look at RiverPod recently to possibly solve this problem, but I'm still checking, right? I think there's no real solution that works for all projects. It's kind of based on the developer, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, we had this discussion even with the Google team, let's say, of the Flutter core, and what do you think about that? So Flutter on purpose does not provide the recommended way of the state management because, as always, it depends. It depends is at the same time the worst and the best answer to all the solutions, because if the person gets into the Flutter, let's say from the React background, so basically he used the Redux before, so choosing the Redux as your state management solution would be very straightforward. If you want a very simple, just you need take care of the dependency injection, let's say, so Riverpod or provider, whatever, it's also a great solution. Getix, Mobix, Get It, and all of this, they are there, and the developer just needs to select the best one, and I guess the developer should choose the one which gives and provides the most value to the project, and that's the most important thing. If you can improve your productivity, if you can understand what you're doing, which is not always the case in our developers' world, so if it just clicks to you, then I see no problem of you using anything else. Actually, Flutter block under the hood is using provider just to provide blocks to this tree. So it means even different state management solutions, they work together sometimes just to provide value for the developer. So that's open.
Yeah, that makes some sense. I think we're gonna about wrap it up. The way we usually wrap it up is that I have a question that I think is, somebody who is a GDE or even just been using Flutter for some time, right? Do you have any advice you can give to people who are maybe just starting off or or are having some difficulties in Flutter?
Yeah, it's quite hard to discuss about that, since my start in Flutter was quite some time ago, so I even forgot some difficulties I had. But I guess the most important thing in every other field in life is just start doing it, and if you get into the problems, they would help you to improve, and eventually you'll get better at what you're doing. So again, Flutter is just a technology, so the most important thing is how in general you can get into a new field and start working there. So if we talk about Flutter in particular, and so what I could recommend, so usually what I saw in, let's say, on Facebook or any other group on Stack Overflow, so developers tend to overcomplicate things quite early. For instance, I don't know, they're thinking about how scalable their app is, or what's the state management solution, getting back to it, right? And they overcomplicate a lot of things, so I would recommend maybe starting slow, starting small. Most of the cases, the simple set state would do the trick and it would work. And if you get into a particular problem, then you'll need to find a solution for that. And since you get into this problem, then at least you would know what's the problem is, and then you can find the best solution to your particular problem and to your particular project. So I guess do not overcomplicate things and start slow is the best advice I could give at the moment.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think that's the same with any other kind of technology, right? Take your time, start slow. But the most important part, even for your writing, right, is just starting. And that's definitely,
exactly.
I would have to say the most difficult part also is to actually start, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'd say starting and then being consistent and keep going, right?
Yeah,
that's the way
actually
I see it.
starting is the first challenge, but getting that consistency in your daily life, it's even more difficult.
Yeah.
But if you manage that, then you become a GDE.
Or you'll become whatever you want to become, right? Not just GDE, but anything.
In my case, GDE.
In this case.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think I have anything else on my side. I mean, of course, we have more and more questions, but I think this is a very great episode. You brought a lot to the table. Is there anything else you wanted to maybe give a shout out to, or anything else you wanted to kind of talk about before we kind of wrap up?
We talk about a lot of things. I know if my colleagues from DevBridge looks at this podcast, so hi, I was there, and my mom doesn't understand English, so, but hi mom, in case. No, I guess my plans for the future is maybe I'll try to jump into YouTube a little bit, just try it out as a media platform, so stay in tune. Follow me on social media, and yeah, if you have any questions, I could be the person who could help you about Flutter or Dart. So at least if you want some mentoring or just want to discuss about my ideas about Flutter, what I think about this field, and if you want to just a friendly chat, so I'm open. Just do not hesitate to reach me out, and see you later, I guess.
Okay, I think you put your contact info into the show notes, so we can definitely put that into our notes, and I have to put that into the show notes.
Yeah.
So thanks again.
No
thanks again for stopping by. If you have anything else you wanted to talk about, you can reach out to me. You know how to get a hold of me, right?
Great.
So we can definitely have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me there. That was a pleasure, I could say now.
And if you have any GDEs who also want to come on the show, please let me know. I'm definitely open.
Okay,
This makes my
I'll
life
have
easier.
that in mind. Okay.
I always have to chase down people, so if they chase me down, it's even better. That's work for me to do.
Yeah, I'm happy that I was like the first one out there, so I guess that would be easier to others to join and to notice that they can also express themselves there. You create quite a nice platform and quite a nice environment to do that, so I really appreciate that.
Just remember me when you have the GDE application in your hand, okay? You got to help me out.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in private.
Okay, thanks so much for having you on. I appreciate your time. I know it's probably about your working time right now. It's probably why you're getting buzzed.
Yeah,
So,
I spent my lunchtime there, but no problems with that.
Okay. Well, thank you again, and hope to have you back soon.
Thank you.
See you.
See you.